Well, hello everyone. My name is Rodrigo Arsuaga. I'm an iOS developer and team leader at Xmartlabs. Today we're going to talk to you about how our small team of iOS developers was able to create effectively and some very popular open source material during these years and hopefully help you to do the same. So, who are we? We're a medium-sized company based in Uruguay, and we dedicated ourselves to create custom software to clientele all around the world. But we also have a focus in creating open source material to help the different communities and in different areas and different technologies. Um, During these years, we were able to work out good practices on how to create this open source and figure out a few principles that I think everyone should follow. So, what have we done so far during these years? We have created some very popular open source libraries. Those include Eureka, the popular form builder, Bender, Excel form, Excel action controller, Sniffer, and way more projects that I can count. And during those years and 8 years of iOS development, we this led us to find these good and key practice fundamentals that I will going to talk to you about today. We also, during these years, were able to secure a good position inside the top 10 GitHub developers in for Swift. So, why do we do open source? I can find the motivations to do open source split into three ways. It can be individual motivation, company motivation, or community motivation. In a individual sense, doing open source can give you a kind of a name. It can help you get a job, stand out, improve your resume, or whatever the kind of thing, or even end up in a very big conference like what I'm doing right now. But I think most importantly, it will give you the sense of belonging to the iOS community, which is a very good community, and helping other people, which for me is the most important part. As a company, we can divide it into parts. One is the team part, and the other is the company goals or CEO like mind. And as a team, what I find important is that we tell our team members that collaborating in open source is also part of being part of the company. It's part of a culture. So it's not only working for clients. Creating tools to help the development environment is not only important for the company, but for themselves and for the community. And we are constantly encouraging them to do it. And in that way, we tell them that their standing in the company will also be compensated in some way if they look forward to it, and we also give them time that is required. And as a company, as a CEO kind of mind, I cannot tell you how many times I've seen the top 10 Swift GitHub developers because this will give you some brand recognition that usually we wouldn't have since we're a medium-sized company. Being recognized in a certain technical level, it has helped us get clients, find developers, and even be a part, be an impact in the community. But most importantly, it has created a culture of companionship inside the company where we all working towards a common goal of helping other people to in their own apps and working on their own projects. So I think that is the most important message we have as a company. On a community sense, having a local powerhouse like we are in Montevideo has seen amazing results because when we started, the community was kind of small, but as we strive to create and we were able to create popular libraries, we've seen the community increase in motivation, in participation, and made them try new things. Things that probably they thought only a company with 100 or 1,000 employees could try because they had the time for it or the money for it. But we need to realize that There's talent everywhere, and you don't need to be a giant to do something. You don't need to be a rock star. You just need to have the will to do it. And I think having a impact in the community that way, and we all starting sharing knowledge and growing together due to the creation of this open source, and this only makes it grow even bigger by each time we create something new. So how do we do what we do? At Smartlabs, I believe that we can point this down and single out into 8 principles. These are culture, finding new ideas, reaching out, the community-driven experience, solid programming foundations, documentations, why numbers matter, and as I talked before, motivation. So let's start going by one. Let's start with culture. And when I say culture, I say make open source part of your daily life. You need to sink in. That's how we first created the culture of open source in our company. This is to constantly looking ways to improve our daily programming life and give back to the community. Why giving back? We usually take from the community. We use a lot of libraries, but we usually don't take the time to give back. And I think it's an amazing thing to have an ability to influence 1,000 apps, maybe that you don't even know about, are being helped by your open source material, and it's a very satisfying feeling that I think we should all try. Also, in our company during the culture, every time we get a new trainee, during the training program we show them how to use different libraries that we created in order to go through the training program, and in that way they don't just see libraries as a black box that you put inputs and have an output. They can see the insides, understand how they work, they start to understand, and in that way it's not something, oh, I don't know how this works, oh, I'm afraid to do this. It's something that's reachable, attainable, and doable. And also what we do is we have these weekly meetings where we usually discuss these different subjects, and also new open source ideas or how to maintain the existing ones, and allocate time to any person that want to work on it, because it's important to show to the people that it's important work, and we should all try to chip in the work. Beside the company, we think that it's also very important to get knees deep on open source. So what I mean by this is that you gotta look into every repo, into the trending ones, see how they work, download them, try it out, maybe make an example project, playing around with it. If you find an issue, report it. If you find something to improve it. But you gotta be careful, because every open source, I think, has its own way of doing things, like a small community, and you should respect that. If you do find flaws in the way they do things, you should propose ideas, but not impose them. Propose ideas to improve, but don't try to impose something on a community where they all have their own way to do it. So please, if you try to help someone, please research the way they do these things, because there's a reason why they do it that way. Here we have an example of us trying to fix an issue in AF networking some years ago. We didn't follow this, and we made the mistake of not making the real research. And the answer was, this issue was already explained here. So basically, we made that mistake. And we're all humans, we make mistakes. But the thing is that we learned that the culture of each project should be respected. Another thing we should talk about is how to find idea. So here at Smartlabs, we make a lot of different apps. And during our experience, we found out that new ideas come from or problems that come out on apps, let's say recurring problems, or voids that we find in the community. So recovery problems comes from, yeah, well, as I said, working. You see, oh, I need this app needs a lot of forms. So what do? I created Excel form, and or when I find a void and I said, oh, what this thing will need a good wrapper around it, so I create that. Basically, it's to be in a constant alert and try to find something and find that thing that's missing or that could simplify other people. And let's say you do find an idea. Let's say you find it out and you program it and you got it out there and you upload it to GitHub. What do you do next, right? Well, I think you should start by going to your friends, your colleagues, your closest people around, showing them, tell them to try it out, to get some feedback. And after that, after you get that feedback, see if it actually adds the value you think you're adding, you should move out to the internet. But how to do that? Well, we are not all iOS celebrities that we post something online and suddenly we get 1,000 views, 1,000 likes, or whatever. Most of us are just normal people. I barely have 40 followers on Twitter, I think. And the important thing here is that if you do spend some time on Twitter with the community, you will see they're really nice. And if you try to give something that adds value to the community, they will share it. They appreciate what the effort you're trying to do. And you don't need to be anything famous or anything. You just need to add value on your ideas. So the way to reach out is, let's say, send an email to an influencer like we did and get some feedback. And after that, you'll start seeing like maybe if you get some traction, you're gonna start being mentioned. By following this marketing idea, we started after a newsletter. I believe we started having like 4 stars per minute on GitHub on Eureka, and we started getting mentions on different places. We even created a blog, which I think is very important to introduce every project, because every time that you will create something new, you want to create a blog that introduces the library basic concepts, right? And how to use it and how it creates a new way of solving an old problem, what's the old versus the new and why the new is better. And once you have that blog post, I believe that you should post it in any venue that you like. Maybe you have your own company one, or you want to use Medium or Hacker News or whatever. The important thing is that you reach out, see what works, and learn from it. You should learn from it every time. And yeah, make sure you have something catchy, maybe a catchy logo or something. And also promoting. Like sometimes a good idea can die if you don't promote it. No one will know of your great ideas if you don't talk about it. So by doing this, what we achieved was to start trending on GitHub, which was an amazing success for us. We started trending on Twitter, people talking about it, mentioning it, showing examples. All the people like really being super appreciative of how easy it was in the case of Eureka or Excel form to create forms, and that was a really great sensation for us. And then we even got mentioned newsletters. In that case was iOS Dev Weekly and Swift News, and we got listed as one of the top 10 iOS libraries to every iOS developer should know. And that's a great achievement. I know it's not gonna happen to every product. It didn't happen to every library that we created, but it can happen because if you try good enough and you try hard enough, I believe that we can all achieve at least and add value to the community. Talking about the community, I think there's something about open source projects that's amazing, and it's the community-driven experience that is letting the community be the driving force of your project. So what that means is that you create something, right? You create something that you think it adds value and it's a good product, it's solid, and you say, okay, I have this. But if you let the community, which are the users mostly, you can have from good to amazing, because they will add the value that you cannot see by being one single developer, right? Because numbers know, and being safe in numbers and sometimes following that feedback will improve your project. So if you stimulate your community, like the case of us, we have the Eureka community. You can have a community that tells you what issues you have and how to solve them, or even propose new features. Like in the case of Eureka, custom roles that they need, and that's amazing because your projects just keep improving without adding much of your input. As a small team, that's something that we appreciate a lot because we don't have infinite time or infinite resources, and every minute is precious. That's why having a community-driven experience is fundamental for open source projects. Here we have some examples of, for example, in Eureka, how many PRs of different people trying to add things, or people being involved and showing issues and something to notice too. You should always have tags, for easy identification. But the important thing is they're involved and they want to be involved and they want to help you improve your own product. Let's talk about programming. So your library needs a solid programming foundation. So what this means is that your open source project cannot be your simple run-of-the-mill code. It needs to have a great architecture, good code. It has to be very well structured in order to be maintained during time. Because you can create let's say a good idea, but if it's not well coded or it's not well versed to expand, it would die out. And having a good foundation is the only thing that will keep you alive during the years. And in order to keep this, with talking about the community too, we need to have ways to the community to keep that foundation too. So how we do this is by having a kind of a firm hand at the beginning for people who try to help you. Try to teach them the way, and don't let them deviate from your architecture or deviate from the way you want to do. I'm not saying don't accept feedback. I'm just saying if you accept feedback, do it in a community sense. Don't let everyone do their own thing, because in that way it will be chaos and you probably die out because it won't be a maintainable library. And the most interesting thing is that the more you try to make people work in a certain way, you will see other people want to make other people work that certain way. And it becomes a community effort to maintain that quality. Something most people don't want to talk about or do is documentation. But you gotta realize it's essential in the sense that it's probably the first thing they will see from your repo. It's basically the front page. And having a good documentation with eye-catching logo, GIFs showing basic examples, benchmarks, code snippets for its implementation, explaining the basics of the open source in a way that it's easy to use and explains how well it improves whatever task you're trying to improve. Also, you gotta make it easier for people to adopt it. So you need to have all the installation methods. You need to have, for example, if they find an issue, a good PR template for people to create issues in the case they see a problem. In that way, by having a PR template, they can fill out the information you require in order to fix that issue, and you don't have to keep asking and going around asking questions for or having confusions of what's missing on whatever issue they're requesting. And also, you should have tests, of course, and continuous integration. This might be a no-brainer, but having tests on your main features will also maintain you through the years and help you have a quality product. So, where has this taken us? What have we achieved by following all of these principles? It has led us to a very comfy position as number 9 on the Swift developers on GitHub, and a very nice position in Objective C. And also, we're being used, for example, Eureka is being used by a lot of important apps, which today it's an amazing thing because every time that we do something to Eureka, we know we're affecting and helping a lot of different apps that affects and improve other people's life every day. So that's also another thing that we accomplished. But not everything is always sunny. Okay, as you can see, we made a lot of repos. If you can see the number, and not all, I didn't mention them all because a lot of them didn't gain traction. That's why numbers matter. That's why every time you fail, you gotta learn on what you failed and then repeat. During the years, we created open source projects that didn't gain any traction, like Opera. Maybe it was the documentation, lack of added value, or it did too much, or it did too little, or the foundation of the program was kind of bad. The thing is that you gotta keep trying. Even though sometimes you created something and maybe a month later or whatever, Apple creates something that completely destroys your idea, like the case of Bender. The idea here is that if you increase the effort, if you keep trying, you increase the chances of success. And it's gonna be rough, it's gonna be hard, but it's gonna be worth it. So basically, with these principles, Xmartlabs was able to keep working on new and old open source projects during the years, attained a good position, was able to help the community, grow the local community, be part of 1,000 apps, and help a lot of different people with a team no bigger than 8, and all of that by constantly working and giving back. And it wasn't old. What I want to try to tell you is that this thing is not going to be easy. It's going to take your time. It's going to take you your weekends. It's going to take you more than 8 hours a day. And you got to reprioritize sometimes things in your company. But I think it's worth it because it not only creates a culture of companionship inside in your company, but it will help everyone in the community to start helping each other, grow together, and be better. So as I want to say, open source lifts all boats. And I think that's the message. And I hope that you guys try this out and start creating. Thank you very much.